And so coming to this part of the world and experience this vibrant lushness was like audacious. And the thing I love about that is that as spiritual beings, we contain that same ability to grow and to be lush and to be vibrant and to be fertile in the same way. And we're already perfect, whole, and complete, but we extend from that place. So we have this interesting dichotomy of being whole and perfect and complete, but also not being done yet. So you don't see that in too many things, to be complete and yet not be done yet. So this spring we talked about what did you want to plant and what did you want to grow and how did you want to expand your experience here at Speakeasy and also in your life. And we gave some tips and tools and inspirations about gardening and how you were going to make your garden grow. And many of us went a little deeper in our spiritual practice. And so now it's summer. And we get to look back and maybe take a little bit of an inventory of how did that work out? What was working? What's not working? What are some things that might need to be pruned? Where might we be able to add a little bit more spiritual fertilizer to, really support ourselves in successful endeavors? So we've been given this great story from Jesus about gardening. When he talks about seeds and where to plant seeds and where's the optimal place to plant seeds. But when you read this story in the Bible, he's not actually talking about farming, He's talking about the idea of gathering to yourself really fertile soil and being really committed to those concepts that are given to you to birth forth into the world. So today we're going to go through that story and we're going to look at where's the good soil and how can we figure out where the good soil is. So the thing about Spirit is it gives each of us a million different concepts. Every day, every hour, we're given a million different concepts and we get to decide, are we going to negate them? Are we going to ignore them? Are we going to abuse them? Or are we going to take them in, get curious, care for them, and bring them into form? So blooming our life, letting our lives bloom, means we're moving into a way of vitality, of joy, of enthusiasm. We have those aha moments. We're working on our spirituality, and we're actively churning up and creating within ourselves a place that is able to easily manifest. And there's no reason why each and every single one of us can't do that. But we'll look at the blind spots. So the three things that any garden needs to bloom and grow is good dirt, fresh water, and a beautiful light source. Those are the three things. And those are the three things that we need as well, symbolically. So let's begin with good dirt. Some good dirt, like when I think about good dirt, actually, I immediately think, like, you got any good dirt? Like, you want to lean and go, oh, well, that kind of good dirt is gossip, and that actually has nothing to do with true good dirt, because good dirt is in integrity, and good dirt is a place where it's not about sideways talking or running each other down. It's about nurturing and supporting and empowering. So good dirt, first of all, it doesn't argue with the seed. When a seed comes to the good dirt says yes. That's all it says. If a carrot seed comes to the good dirt says, I'm going to give you a carrot. It doesn't say, oh, you know what, I know you want a carrot, but I'm thinking you're more of an avocado. It doesn't do that. It would be a big waste of its time. It says yes to it. And it takes care of it. It literally swaddles it. It embraces it. The thing about good dirt is, if you're not finding yourself in good dirt, you're going to feel very shut down. A lot of people experience stagnation because they're not in the midst of some good soil. If a child, I was just watching this video recently, that sometimes we've really eradicated creative thinking in our society because we have become helicopter parents and we keep shutting kids down out of fear, like don't go there, don't do that, don't do this. And they hear so many more no's than they hear yeses, and they begin to stop delivering their concepts out into the world and they just begin to shut down. So if that's happening, or if you don't want that to happen, one way to reverse the flow of that is to begin to stop yourself from saying no. That's not the first response. The first response is yes, and then you can get into the other responses of looking at blind spots. But the first response should always be yes. Why not? Why wouldn't you be able to do this? So how do we find good dirt? This is the story from the Bible. Jesus tells this parable. He says, a sower went out to sow, but as he sowed, some of the seeds fell on the side of the road, and birds came and ate the seeds. So when we think about that part of the story, you know, first of all, the sower sowed some seeds and tossed them on a road. So if we know about roads, we know that they're well traveled, that there's a lot of people on the roads. So if you have a concept that you just came into, that just came to you, the last place you want to do is to throw it out on the road. The road is a very heavily traveled area, and it will almost feel like you're shouting in a loud room. So that's not the optimal place to plant your seeds, is on the road. Also, if you ever notice that sometimes when you do make the mistake of rolling out your concept to a very crowded area, like, hey, what do you guys think of this? That people just start picking at it. Those are the birds. You know, those are the birds that just start to pick at it, and you're like, wait, this isn't bird food. You know, this is my idea. And they fly off with it, and it's very frustrating. So the way that we can be sure to eradicate that experience is by not rolling it out right away, by taking some time to get intimate with the concept before we shout it out into the world. You know, it's a forgivable thing that we do because there's so much enthusiasm around having these great concepts, but in order to really care for them, we want to take a little time. So the next thing is that when we roll it out onto the path, when you come out with a good idea, when it comes to being overcrowded, and the birds take it away, it's almost, you almost feel like nobody respects my ideas, and they feel like bird brain ideas. They feel like they don't carry any weight. And if you continue to do this, you're going to be like that child who shuts down. So this story about the birds that carry off the seeds, it's not just a warning, it's also a directional. It's saying be very careful. Be careful with your seeds. Don't toss them into the mainstream. There's one thing about throwing spaghetti against the wall to generate ideas, but if we stayed in that place of just throwing spaghetti against the walls, we'd end up in a room of wet noodles, you know, and that's not optimal either. Like, we want to be able to move past just a whole bunch of people talking about great ideas. It can be addictive to get around people who are generating and talking about big ideas. I don't know about you, but like sometimes on the internet, I'll hear like these entrepreneurs and they'll be like, you can do this in 10 steps, or, you know, you can launch this and make $1 billion. And it's like, oh, I want that. But it's never true. It's never true. Like, nothing can be microwaved. Nothing good can be microwaved. And we have to be willing to invest in, if this is a worthy concept, to really put some skin in the game and take care with it. So where is the optimal place to plant the concept? It would be around a small group of midwives, and I talk about this a lot in A Course in Creating. But there might be a community like this, maybe members of your family, maybe members of your team at work who are for you, you know, who are looking for your highest and greatest good. Because these gentle concepts that come to us at first, they're very fragile. You know, the seeds of dreams are very fragile, and they need to be protected. A new concept is in need, in order to move into full realization, is in need of many hours of care and polish before it can optimally be presented to daylight. It's like a new baby. If you've ever had a new baby and the midwife says to you, like, don't take it out the first 30 days. Like, just keep it at home and take care of it and get to know the child before you bring it out into the world. I didn't pay attention to any of those suggestions. My kids were on planes by the time they were 3 days old. But it's the idea of it. So, these concepts need to be embraced and swaddled and nurtured. I had an experience with Ryan when Ryan came out, and I remember that he rolled this idea out to me, and I was totally blindsided by it. And I remember feeling like a bird, like I wanted to pick at it. Like, what does this mean for you? What does this mean to me? What does this mean for us? What does this mean? What does this mean? And how is it going to look? And what do we need to do? And all of these questions came flooded in. But when I really took a breath and went to Spirit, it was like, shut the door. Just be here. Your role right now is just to listen. And it was so beneficial for me to pay attention to that inspiration, because then my child got to express himself. You know, it was like a big open space for him to be able to express himself. Sometimes someone will give you an idea, they'll come with an idea or suggestion, and immediately we want to should on it or can't on it. And it would be very generous for us to just go, let me just take that in. Like, can we be generous enough to hold space for each other's ideas? Because again, it's a very brave thing to bring forth these concepts. I remember when I first had the concept of this community. I was sitting in a room we called the Treehouse. Beth Gordon mentioned it when she came here to speak, and she was in the room where it happened. The room where it happened. It was we were just having a Course in Miracles conversation. I was teaching class, and she was one of the students there. And I didn't know my next right step. Like, I had no idea what my next right step was. I was just like, I'm just in this room. I'm just teaching. That's what I'm doing today. And all of a sudden, I had this revelation. I was like, I'm supposed to open up a spiritual community. And the women that were there, they didn't just say yes, but Beth Gordon actually opened her purse and gave me seed money. She gave me the check to get the contract to secure a couple of months at Emmanuel Hall. That's a good midwife. Like, that's a really good midwife, you know? I had another experience where when I was first pregnant with Owen, and Owen's dad wasn't interested in being a father at that time. No judgment on him whatsoever. It just wasn't part of his journey. But I was invested in carrying this child forward, and I had a friend. And he came to me and he was like, I see where you're at right now, and I want to walk you through this particular chapter of your life. I want to be there for you. I'm going to take you to the doctor. I want to go through Lamaze classes with you. And I was like, what? Like, who does that? This is the guy who ended up being my first husband. Now, I got to confess to you that you know more about my husband leaving me from this universe than you do know about him being a great midwife. And it turns out he was a fabulous midwife. It didn't end up being our eternal journey together, but for that duration, it's a thing I don't ever want to forget about him, is that he really was there for me. So if you find somebody who is an awesome midwife for you, make sure you appreciate them. Make sure you take the time to really let them know that you value their input and their ability to hold the high watch for you, because those people don't come very often. They're few and far between. And so to have them, it means to appreciate them. So find them and appreciate them. The next part is when the seeds get thrown into a rocky place. And Jesus says that the sower tossed some seeds on a rocky place where it didn't have much soil, and so it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But the sun came, and it torched the plants, basically, and it scorched them, and they withered and they rotted away. Now, this is a really common error. You know, we think, oh, that looks like dirt, so I'm just going to plant myself there, and I'm so enthusiastic about it. And it's the major problem here is basically lust and impatience. And I guess lust is impatience, isn't it? So it's when we get our first idea and we're just like, we want to run with it and plant it wherever we can, and we don't take the time to really consider. And it also is an interesting thing that happens. It's the desire not to actually go deep with the concept. We just want the surface idea. You know, I want to be a practitioner, so I'm just going to kind of spout prayers that I hear other people spout, but I'm never actually going to do the internal work and embody these concepts so that you can hear a whole and holy truth from me. So we do that a lot. I remember I was guilty of it when I went to 12-step. I went into 12-step and I was like, oh my gosh, I understand, you know, that this is an amazing program, that it's going to change my life completely. I was there for about 2 days. I thought I knew everything. I went back to my family. I was like, you guys should get to 12-step. It's going to save you. You know what I mean? Like, I had no business, you know, spouting anything. I was not the teacher. I was the student. I wasn't willing to be the student. I wasn't willing to actually do the work. I wanted to take it from the surface. You know, so that's what happens when we put our seeds on, you know, these rocky places. It tells us that we're not willing to get deeper with it. You know, because getting deeper with it means that we're going to have to do some work. We're going to have to till the soil and remove some of those rocks and blocks to our optimal good. And believe me, I know why you don't want to do that work. It's not always fun work to do. But you don't want to be one of those people who are just given lip service. You know what I mean? Because everybody can smell that, and it's actually kind of agitating, and it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve anyone. You know, the words that come from somebody who is working from a shallow well are also very unimpactful. So just know that. You know, we're here to do deeper work than that. So the next place that Jesus says not to throw your seeds is amongst the thorns. It says the sower sowed the seeds amongst the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them out. So the funny thing about thorns, and I've said this a lot, is, you know, we could see a thorn bush or we could see a rose bush. Well, we never call a rose bush a thorn bush. You know, at least we have that correct. Rose bushes have thorns. That's just how it is. Thorns are there for a reason. They're there to protect the fruit. They're there to protect the flowers. But and so when you start to move into putting some skin in the game with your concept, there's going to be some you know, a little bit of pain. There just is. It just happens. You know, when I was submitting things for my book, when I was submitting packages to get published. There was rejection notices. And they were like, oh, that's a thorn, that feels bad. I could have said, forget it. I could have been thin-skinned about it and said, forget it, I'm not doing this. I could get hurt. When you start to date, people are going to reject you. And so you could say, forget it, I'm just going to be celibate for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways that the thorns can kind of keep us at bay. But what I'm going to suggest is that make sure that the roses are fight-worthy. If you're going for those roses, make sure that you, even if you get nicked by a few thorns, that you are so committed to the idea of that rose that you just continue to walk through it anyhow. We were in Italy the other day with Billy, and we walked through this garden, and there was an apricot tree. And it was beautiful. It was vibrant. It was beautiful. And we were like, apricots? We could just pick them off the tree, but we're short. We couldn't reach them. So Billy's like, I'm going in for them. So she goes into the tree and she starts climbing up the tree. And she's like, she's getting all cut up. She's like, Mom, it's like there's thorns and prickets. But she came back with a branch filled with apricot trees. And we laughed, This is life, Sometimes you're going to shed a little blood for the things that you love. It happens. It's important to know that, not to let that scar you, because those are the things that you probably really remember because you actually invested in them. So when Jesus says, don't throw your seeds amongst thorns, he's also talking about the idea that don't be around too many prickly people. It's not the time to be prickly. In the beginning, when you're first setting your seeds into consciousness, you want to make sure that, again, you choose some worthy midwives that are going to support you. And there will be a time to illuminate blind spots, but in the first step of bringing something to form, that's not it. It's not about it at that time. So there will be thorns. That's part of the game. Don't get hung up. Keep your eye on the roses. And remember, why did I decide to do this, Why did I decide to step into being a practitioner? Why did I decide to become a writer? Make sure that that you have gas in the tank around your desired outcome. Jesus says that these thorns are for protection. So, but what I know also about them is that they are they're very likely to also pop our enthusiasm. And if you pop somebody's enthusiasm, it's just not a good thing. And if you find somebody consistently popping your own enthusiasm, it's time to walk away, because it's just a directional. So, we often can find ourselves around henny pennies, people who are saying the sky is falling, this isn't going to work out, who want to poke holes in our dreams, and sometimes they're not even people outside of ourselves, sometimes they're inside of ourselves. So so I call them the ugly stepsisters that are like, who do you think you are? You don't got no money, you don't know what you're doing. And so we have to work with those internal voices as well, and to meet those internal voices with the three holy words of, you got this. If you're the one who received this concept, then you're the one to deliver it. And within this concept breeds everything that it needs for delivery. We just have to remember that. That's not something that we're told often. We go to the concept and then we start to figure out how we're going to make this work in the world. That's not our job. Our job is just to hold the concept and know that it's done unto us as we believe, and that we will be given the resources to bring this into true fruition without sacrifice or stress, Finally, Jesus says the seed fell on good soil, and then it brought forth some 100-fold, 60 and 30-fold of grain. So when we get to that point of putting it in good soil, it returns to us multiplied. And finding fertile soil is the difference between everything. It's the difference between success and stagnation. So it's important for you this week to think about, where are those places where I feel supported, where people are cheering me on, where I feel like people have my back. The next thing that the plant needs is water. So the first thing is absolutely good dirt. And the good dirt, like I said, it just says yes. That's all it does. Just say yes. What water does is water says yes and. So the soil will take the seed and it'll say yes to the carrot seed. And then the water will come in, and it'll collaborate. So water is a space of collaboration. It's the thing that washes away what no longer serves you and also brings in what's going to support you. So it's where we have inspiration from other people. It's where we have healthy collaborations. It's where but in healthy collaborations, if you have a concept and somebody is saying to you, oh yeah, and I see you could do this, or I see you could do that with your concept. That's a healthy collaboration. If somebody comes to you and says, yeah, no, that's all wrong, and I need to take it back this way, and you really, then you can know right away, with this isn't a holy collaboration. This is where somebody actually doesn't know how to collaborate yet. And it's okay to be aware of that. But until your partners know how to collaborate, walk away. That's what I would say, is walk away. Because you're going to just create you're going to start to birth a whole lot of babies that are awkward at best. So the water comes in and it washes in good ideas. It gives inspiration. For us, this means that to stay in the flow. Like, how do we stay in the flow with our idea? We get a concept, and immediately our brain starts to put the concept into a complete picture. It's never a complete picture. It's just the first picture. So this idea is going to change, and for us to be able to take this idea, okay, I'm going to do a spiritual community. Let's use that as an example. And then if I add water to it and everyone else has their say in it, well, it's not going to look the way I thought it's going to look. When Will and I first did our first film, you know, he wrote the script, and then we worked with the actors. Then the actors did something completely different with it, and we're like, what? And we liked most of it. So that's, you know, and then we didn't like some of it, but that's what happens when you collaborate. And then sometimes we'd say, no, you need to say this line. So we'd fight over the line, and the actor would or wouldn't say the line, and we'd get to editing, and the editor would cut the whole scene. It's like, so if you are in the flow with the knowledge of collaboration, it'll be less, you will take it less personally. You'll understand that there's going to be some sacrifices and there's going to be some blessings, and this is how we actually work together. You know, that that it actually can improve the end product. So for us to stay in the flow, because if we stay really strict about and controlling about what this concept is going to be, we will choke the living life out of it. We will kill it with our own hands. So we want to be aware of that. When you're treading into, so the questions here is, where are you getting your fresh ideas from around your own concepts? Like, where are you being fed with fresh ideas? Where are you treading into some deeper waters to support a greater inspiration? Where are you open to new and fresh inspiration? And where are you letting water just wash over you? You know, to go to such deep waters that you're not even sure what the inspiration is, but you're just letting it wash over you. That happens a lot in A Course in Miracles, and I think it's one of the most generous things we can do, is just to not know, to be in the not know. Like I said, when I was in that treehouse teaching A Course in Miracles, I didn't know my next right thing. And I was kind of uncomfortable. I was like, I'm just here teaching A Course in Miracles to a group of 5 to 7 people. And that's just what it looks like today. So the final thing for a vibrant growth, first we have the good soil, and then we have the fresh water, fresh ideas, and the final thing is light. So we have to have a light source, and light represents truth. So where are you getting the truth from? And the truth is when you could say to somebody, you got a big blind spot there. But this comes after you've said, yes, you can do this, yes, and maybe you can do it this way, and then thirdly, you might want to look at this. The third step comes way after the baby's even born, where you can kind of start to say, okay, like, why aren't you moving forward in a really empowered and impactful way? So the light tells the truth, and sometimes when we get the truth, at first it pisses us off, but eventually it does set us free. So light is also about humor, like remembering not to take it too seriously. When you're creating and bringing forth concepts, for God, that means that this concept is actually going to benefit everyone eternally. If it's done in ego, it's going to benefit the ego temporarily, and there's going to be a hangover. But if you're working with God and you're receiving the concepts of the divine, then those concepts are meant to support everyone. So that's a really beautiful thing. So we can go in patience. We don't have to rush this thing. So impatience is about humor, is about having humor along the way, you know, making sure that you're with people who have a sense of humor. And even today I was talking to Dave about, you know, our Sunday morning, and, you know, we were saying, like, we're all doing the very best we can, and we're not here to take it too seriously, because I would suggest to you, as I suggest to myself, like, don't do anything I can't do in peace. Like, if I can't do in peace, it's time to let it go. you know. I made that commitment about 2 years ago that I was not going to do anything that I couldn't do in peace, and my peace is very connected to my happiness. So if I can't do it in peace or happiness, I let it go. And this year recently, I came up with another awareness was that I don't need to care so much. I know it sounds crazy because I know our currency is care. But what I mean is that this life that you're living, there's a million things that are going to wash ashore for you. And they're going to wash back out, and then they're going to wash ashore, and then they're going to wash back out. And one day you'll have a son, and then there'll be a daughter, and then there'll be a son again, and there'll be a daughter. And it's like, if you care too much, you know, you can get stuck, you can get hung up, and that can prevent great growth too. So we are each an infinite being. We have infinite potential and possibilities. And there's greatness that lives within each of us. Each of us are that seed of great potentiality. And every desire that you have comes with a blueprint for you to fulfill it. If you stay steadfast in that commitment of remembering that, you are here to bloom and grow. And now is the time. And that's the word.